There is a reason solitude has been emphasized across philosophy, psychology, and spiritual traditions for thousands of years. Not as an escape from life, but as a way for clarity. Solitude is not loneliness, it is not isolation, it is not a failure to connect. Solitude is the intentional removal of external influence so that your internal truth can emerge. And this distinction matters, because when most people say they don't like being alone, what they really mean is that they are uncomfortable without external reference points. When you are constantly around other people, you are constantly absorbing their perceptions of reality, their beliefs about what is possible, their fears about what is realistic, their standards for what is acceptable. Most people don't realize how little of their thinking is actually their own. Philosophers understood this long before psychology had language for it. Søren Kierkegaard warned that the greatest threat to individuality was what he called the crowd. Not crowds in a physical sense, but psychological crowds. The moment you outsource your thinking to consensus, you lose authenticity. You become a reflection of collective opinion, rather than an expression of truth. Solitude interrupts this. When you are alone, you are no longer reacting to approval or disapproval. You are no longer calibrating yourself against other people's comfort levels. You are no longer negotiating your desires to fit inside someone else's worldview. This is where clarity begins. Modern psychology confirms this. Humans are deeply influenced by social conformity bias, the tendency to unconsciously adopt the beliefs, fears, and limitations of those around us. This doesn't require pressure, it doesn't require persuasion, it happens simply through proximity. Over time, your standards soften, your goals shrink, your risk tolerance narrows. And because this happens gradually, you don't notice it. Solitude breaks that feedback loop. When you spend time alone, your brain enters a different state. Neuroscience shows that in quiet, uninterrupted environments, the default mode network becomes more active. The system associated with self-reflection, identity formation, and future planning. In simple terms, your brain literally switches into a mode designed for understanding who you are. This is why people often describe solitude as producing downloads, insights, or sudden clarity. Your mind finally has space to organize itself. This is not spiritual fluff, it's cognitive function. The moment you outsource your thinking to consensus, you lose authenticity. You become a reflection of collective opinion, rather than an expression of truth. Solitude interrupts this. When you're alone, you are no longer reacting to approval or disapproval. You are no longer calibrating yourself against other people's comfort levels. Someone else's worldview. This is where clarity begins. Modern psychology confirms this. Humans are deeply influenced by social conformity bias, the tendency to unconsciously adopt the beliefs, fears, and limitations of those around us. This doesn't require pressure, it doesn't require persuasion, it happens simply through proximity. Over time, your standards soften, your goals shrink, your risk tolerance narrows. Neuroscience shows that in quiet, uninterrupted environments, the default mode network becomes more active. The system associated with self-reflection, identity formation, and future planning. In simple terms, your brain literally switches into a mode designed for understanding who you are. This is why people often describe solitude as producing downloads, insights, or sudden clarity. Your mind finally has space to organize itself. This is not spiritual fluff, it's cognitive function. Friedrich Nietzsche believed solitude was essential for anyone who wanted to create values rather than inherit them. He argued that without solitude, people unconsciously absorb the moral frameworks and ambitions of their environment. Nietzsche didn't romanticize being alone. He acknowledged that it was uncomfortable, even destabilizing. But he believed that creation requires separation. You cannot hear your own voice while constantly listening to others. This is where standards are formed. When you are alone long enough, you begin to see clearly where your life has been shaped by adaptation rather than intention. Where you've compromised. Where you've performed. Where you've accepted things simply because they were familiar. Solitude exposes this. Another crucial point that is rarely acknowledged. Most advice people give you is not objective. It is autobiographical. People advise you based on their upbringing, their disappointments, their fears, their risk tolerance. This doesn't make them wrong, but it does make their advice limited. If you have no desire to live someone else's life, you need to be extremely cautious about following their guidance. Solitude gives you distance from this influence. When you are alone, No one is shaping your decisions through their own trauma. No one is lowering your standards to match their boundaries. No one is discouraging your ambitions because they couldn't imagine them. This is where self-trust begins. Even therapy, psychology, and guidance should never override your inner knowing. These tools are meant to help you recognize patterns, not replace your intuition. Your gut processes information faster than conscious thought. This is supported by neuroscience. Your intuition is not irrational. It is pre-verbal intelligence, but intuition cannot be heard in constant noise. Solitude reconnects you with that internal compass. You stop asking other people what you should do. You start asking yourself what feels true, and this is where real confidence forms, not loud confidence, not performative confidence, but grounded certainty. When you are rooted in yourself, other people's doubts lose their power. Someone telling you something isn't possible no longer discourages you. It simply reveals the limits of their imagination. Nothing meaningful has ever been created from borrowed belief systems. The people who change their lives, who build something different, who live unconventionally, who step outside inherited timelines, all share one trait. They learned how to stand alone. Solitude teaches emotional regulation, decision-making without reassurance, comfort with uncertainty. These are skills most people never develop. Instead, they outsource their self-trust. They stay in relationships that don't align. They follow paths that don't excite them. They suppress desires that feel too big or unrealistic, not because they don't know better, but because they don't know themselves well enough. Solitude changes that. It strips away identities built for survival rather than truth. You see clearly where you've been shrinking, where you've been accommodating, where you've been living a version of life that doesn't belong to you. And with that awareness comes choice. This is why solitude often precedes major life shifts. Before growth, there is withdrawal. Before clarity, there is quiet. Before reinvention, there is separation. Nature works this way. So do people. At some point in life, everyone needs a season of solitude. Not to detach from the world, but to return to it with coherence. Because the version of you that exists in solitude is not confused, not diluted, not performing. It is the most accurate version of you. And that version knows exactly where it's going. Trust it. You are not falling behind, you are not missing out, you are recalibrating. And what comes next will reflect that.